is helping us. He wants it to be fast too, and I think everybody in this, at this time in NATO, they want to see this thing happen. So we have a deadline, and after that, we're going to have a very much different attitude. But I think it has a very good chance of getting done.
This is my video update on this Thursday afternoon, April the 24th, coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with Zelensky in South Africa. The Green Goblin made a trip to South Africa. He met with South African leader Ramaphosa, and Zelensky's goal in his travels to South Africa is to try and pull South Africa apart from Russia. And Zelensky said during a statement to the media that Russia is destabilizing Africa, that Russia is no good for South Africa, and that Russia is no good for Africa in general. And so Zelensky's mission is to poison relations between South Africa and African countries in general against Russia, and to try and move them more towards Kiev and the collective West. A mission that will never happen, has zero chance of success, because at the moment, South Africa has terrible relations with the United States, and South Africa needs all the support that it can get from BRICS, from China, and from Russia. So there is zero chance of pulling apart South Africa and Russia. But Zelensky, he will take whatever opportunity that comes to him to leave Kiev and to travel somewhere else, because right now at the moment, Ukraine and Kiev is the last place that Zelensky wants to be. So if it's South Africa, if the powers that be order him to travel to South Africa to take up a cause that has zero possibility of ever being successful, then he'll take it, because it means that he doesn't have to hang out in Kiev. And Zelensky also, as he was speaking to the media, he said that right now, Trump has Ukraine's terms on his desk. Isn't that interesting? So we had the Trump peace plan, and now Zelensky has turned it around and said, no, there is no consideration of the Trump peace plan. What we have done, Ukraine and our UK European partners, is that we have put together our own terms, and we've put it on the desk of Trump. So he has these terms, and this is how we will move forward with a peace in Ukraine. So we've gone from Trump's peace plan to the UK, the EU, and Zelensky putting together their terms for a negotiation with Project Ukraine. And that has been presented to Trump. An ultimatum has been presented to Trump. What a world we live in, huh? Yeah, there are reports that the talks in London, the talks that crashed out before they even started, that not even Kellogg showed up. At the end of the day, there are reports, I can't confirm this, so I'm not 100% sure on this, but I did read reports that Keith Kellogg even backed out of the London talks. I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But according to Zelensky, what was discussed is this new European, UK, Ukraine peace terms, and they've been sent over to Trump. And it's now up to Trump to capitulate and agree. That's right, Trump. It's time for the U.S. to agree to Ukraine's terms. Yeah, well, Trump, he's getting very frustrated with the Green Goblin. According to his spokeswoman, Caroline Levitt, she said that Trump is getting very frustrated with Zelensky conducting megaphone diplomacy. Those are the words that she used. Megaphone. One second. Yeah, megaphone diplomacy. Because she's saying that Zelensky goes to the media and expresses his dissatisfaction. He airs out his grievances with the negotiations to the media in a very public way, and Trump does not like that. Trump does not like that. Trump is conducting his foreign policy on Truth Social posts, but he doesn't like the fact that Zelensky is going to the media and talking about how he doesn't like the U.S.-Russia negotiations and the Trump peace plan. All right. Anyway, that is what Caroline Levitt said. We are getting reports that confirmation that Witkoff on Friday, according to Axios, will be going to Moscow to meet with Dmitriev, perhaps Putin as well, most likely Putin. And this is going to be his fourth meeting with Putin, possibly. A lot of meetings with Putin. He gets along with Dmitriev. They found common ground, Dmitriev and Witkoff, because they both want to do business, basically. Witkoff would absolutely jump at June 2024 terms. Istanbul Plus, he would definitely go for it so that the U.S. and Russia can start doing business together. That's Witkoff. If Witkoff was making the decisions, we would have had a June 2024 agreement 3 months ago, and the U.S. and Russia would already be doing business. But it's not Witkoff's decision to make. It is President Trump's decision to make. But Witkoff will be going to Moscow once again. That's a good thing. It's a good thing that Witkoff is speaking to Putin, and that he has found common ground, a working relationship with Dmitriev. That's a good sign. But Trump, man, after the whole London talks collapsed, Trump put out a post on Truth Social, really long post, like really long, and it was not a good post, man. It was not Trump at his best. That's for sure. This was a Truth Social post that instead of making the United States look like they're the stronger party with Ukraine in these talks, it made Trump look as if he is asking Zelensky to accept his peace deal. I don't want to say groveling. I don't want to use that word because it wasn't quite there. It just seemed as if Trump is telling Zelensky, look, man, just accept the peace deal. Come on, just accept it. Instead of Trump putting out a Truth Social post and saying, look, April 30th is the deadline. I heard what you said about not recognizing Crimea, Zelensky. You're not on board with the recognition of Crimea, so you're not on board with our peace plan. All right, but the deadline is April 30th. Take it or leave it. It should have been like 1 or 2 sentences. Instead, he came out with this super long post on Truth Social, and it was just a really, really bad look for Trump. It did not place him as having the upper hand in these talks, in this relationship. I don't think you can call what's going on between the United States and Ukraine talks. In the relationship, it did not place the U.S. as having the upper hand. I'm not going to read you the whole post because, like I said, it's really long and I don't want to read it a second time. But let me read you the first couple of sentences and the last couple of sentences. So Trump posted, Ukrainian President Zelensky is boasting on the front page of the Wall Street Journal that Ukraine will not legally recognize the occupation of Crimea. There's nothing to talk about here. This statement is very harmful to the peace negotiations with Russia, in that Crimea was lost years ago under the auspices of President Barack Hussein Obama. And then Trump gets into this whole Obama thing. I don't know why he's getting into this Obama thing. Focus on Biden, Trump, Biden's war, not Obama. But yes, Obama did play a significant role in escalating with Russia. Absolutely, no doubt about it. But keep your messaging focused on Biden. Nope, he decides to go off on this Obama tangent. Anyway, we go further down in the post, and Trump says that Zelensky, he can have peace, or he can fight another 3 years before losing the whole country. I don't know where he comes up with the 3 years number, but anyway, I have nothing to do with Russia, but have much to do with wanting to save an average 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers a week who are dying for no reason whatsoever. The statement made by Zelensky today will do nothing but prolong the killing field, and nobody wants that. We are very close to a deal. But the man with no cards to play should now finally get it done. I look forward to being able to help Ukraine and Russia get out of this complete and total mess that would have never started if I were president. Yes, we know. This would have never started if you were president. We know. We know this by now. Even though you sent the javelins, and the javelins were this awesome wonder weapon, and no one was harder on Russia than I was, we know that this war would have never started if you were president. But that's the wrong messaging. Biden's war. I'm walking away. That's the right messaging. Biden's war. I'm walking away. Don't talk about Obama. Don't talk about javelins. Don't talk about if I was president, this war would have never happened. Just say Biden's war. I'm walking away. If this deal isn't signed by April 30th, I'm walking away. That's simple, man. It is just that simple. Instead, Trump can't quit Project Ukraine. He can't quit Zelensky. I can't quit you. I can't quit you. Yeah, man. He just can't let it go. As we said on the Duran, if Trump gets bogged down in this, then he's stuck, man. His entire presidency is stuck. And he's getting bogged down in this. If there's no deal, or if he doesn't walk away, because I don't think there's going to be a deal, but if he doesn't walk away on April 30th, then Ukraine is absolutely 100% his war. He's got a deadline, April 30th. Forget Zelensky's ultimatum. He put his own date, his own deadline, April 30th. That's what Trump said, not me. April 30th. If there's no agreement, and I think most people, the majority of people believe that there will be no agreement. Zelensky has said that there will be no agreement. And if Trump does not walk away, then this is going to be his war, no doubt about it. And it is going to be his defeat. And it is going to derail his entire presidency. You can already see how much time Ukraine is taking up. I mean, it's taking up all of his freaking time, man. Every question he gets from reporters is about Ukraine. Most every question. 50%, 60% of the questions are about Ukraine. That's a lot. That's a lot of questions, man. And he's got so many other things to do. He's got this trade war going on with China. I mean, Ukraine, man, it's an easy one for the United States to solve. For the United States. Yes, the U.S. is in a conflict with Russia. They are a party to this war. They are the party in this war. But the United States, they have the ability to walk away from this. It's just the way it is. They don't have an alliance with Ukraine. They don't have a treaty with Ukraine. Ukraine's not in NATO. Ukraine doesn't share a border with the United States. At least last I checked, does Ukraine share a border with the United States? I don't think so. No common history, language, culture. Ukraine's far, far away from the United States. There's no history there. The U.S. has the ability, if it wants, to walk away, even though it has been the driving force in this conflict. That's understood. But if he doesn't walk away by April 30th, man, this is going to be Trump's war. He's got a deadline, and that deadline's coming in a week, less than a week. And he put out a post on Truth Social, which was definitely not strength. He talks about peace through strength. Well, that post on Truth Social was definitely not strength. That's for sure. And you know what? Zelensky picked up on that, and the Europeans are going to pick up on that. And that is why Zelensky goes to South Africa, and he talks about our terms. We're going to present Trump with our terms, because he picks up, I'm being serious now, he picks up on posts like this from Trump, and you know what Zelensky realizes, and you know what the Europeans realize? They say, you know what? Trump doesn't want to walk away from this. So we're going to start presenting our terms to the United States, and we're going to start hitting the United States hard on this. And we're going to start embarrassing the United States, which is what Zelensky did. When Zelensky publicly, talking about megaphone diplomacy, when Zelensky publicly went to the media and said, I don't recognize, or I'm not going to accept the U.S.'s recognition of Crimea because it goes against our Constitution, he did that publicly in order to embarrass Trump. No doubt about it. I don't understand why the Trump administration is not picking up on any of this. Anyway, Trump then went on to post on Truth Social, I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kiev. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done. Right. So Russia launched strikes into weapons facilities in Ukraine, in Kiev, in Dnipropetrovsk and Pakrovsk. At least the Russian military claims that they hit Ukraine military facilities. This is what the Russian Ministry of Defense put out in a statement today. And what's Trump's reaction is to tell Putin to stop. Putin, stop. Vladimir, he doesn't even say Putin, he says Vladimir, stop, all caps. And then he says 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. So the new narrative, at least from what I'm getting, if you go by the last two posts on Truth Social, the long post that he put out, he talks about 5,000 soldiers, and now this short post telling Vladimir to stop, he says 5,000 soldiers. He's just, his administration is just pulling out numbers from thin air. It's obvious. Because before it was 3,000 Russian soldiers and then 2,000. I have no way to confirm this. You don't have any way to confirm this. No one really knows what the numbers are. We have an idea. I think all of us have some sort of idea as to what's happening in Ukraine. But, I mean, no one really has any confirmed numbers. And it just seems to me that what the Trump administration is doing is media spin, man. They were putting out the spin of Russian casualties at 3,000 a week and Ukrainian casualties at 2,000 or 2,500 a week. Remember that narrative, which was a couple of weeks ago? You know what? That narrative was not being picked up. And so I just think Trump's team just said, you know what? Let's simplify it. It's too complicated to say Russian this much, Ukraine this much. Let's just simplify it, because what's the narrative now for Trump? What are they trying to, how are they positioning the United States? The U.S. is the mediator, right? It's not a party to this war, it's the mediator, which is obviously laughable, but anyway. The U.S. is the mediator. Trump wants the war to end because he wants the killing to stop, and so we put a number so that Americans can get an understanding for what's going on, right? And at first they were giving one number for Russia, which was a very high number, and then a lower number for Ukraine. Now they're simplifying it. And they're saying to Trump, just say 5,000. Just use a nice, easy to remember rounded number like 5,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever. Just one number and say, these are the lives that I'm trying to save. I'm trying to save these lives. That's the messaging that they want to put out there. And they're simplifying it. It's obvious. It's obvious what they're doing. But yeah, he's upset with Vladimir. Even though the United States has been running. I don't know if it continues to run it, but for 3+ years, as we know from the New York Times reporting, the United States was running a command and control center that was waging the war against Russia. That was running everything with the war against Russia, everything. He doesn't mention that in this post. He's just saying that Vladimir needs to stop. Well, I don't know, maybe the US needs to stop. Maybe they need to stop the weapons supplies, maybe they need to stop the money, maybe they need to stop the intel. Just saying. We do have some news. On a positive note for the Trump administration, we do have some news that they are banning the sending of Taurus missiles to Ukraine, the United States, which shows you how much of a vassal Germany really is. Remember Merz, before he became chancellor or chancellor-elect, when he was in the parliament many, many months ago, and he gave a speech and said that Putin has 24 hours to capitulate. If he doesn't capitulate in 24 hours, and I'm going to recommend that the parliament send him Taurus missiles, send Ukraine Taurus missiles. That was Merz's his final offer to Putin. 24 hours to surrender, or else Germany's going to send the Taurus missile wonder weapon to Kiev. Well, it turns out that because the Taurus missile has US parts and components, Germany cannot send that missile anywhere unless it has the approval of the United States. And so the United States is saying, no, we are not going to approve Taurus missiles going to Ukraine. What a vassal Germany is, huh? And what a liar Merz is. What a liar. Just shows that it was all theater for Merz. Playing the tough guy. He was playing the tough guy. I'm going to give Putin a 24-hour ultimatum. Well, it turns out that Merz doesn't even control his own Taurus missile stockpile, right? He has no control of it. The U.S. controls it. He can't even make that decision. Merz and the German parliament cannot even make the decision of sending Taurus missiles to Ukraine, and it's a good thing. It's a very good thing, believe me, that the Trump administration is making the right call here, and they're telling Germany, no, we are not going to approve the Taurus missile going to Kiev. So that's a positive. Trump was speaking to reporters in the White House, and he said that it's easier to deal with Putin, with Russia, than it is with Ukraine. He thought it was going to be easier to deal with Ukraine and harder to deal with Russia, but he told reporters, you know what, it's easier to deal with Russia. He said, I think Russia is ready. I think we have a deal with Russia. I don't know where he's coming up with that, but he said, I think we have a deal with Russia, okay? We have to get a deal with Zelensky, Trump told journalists at the White House on Wednesday. And I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder. The US president added, that's okay, it's all right. Expressing hope that we'll have a deal with both. Yeah, Trump is now depending on the hope strategy. I hope Zelensky just signs the peace plan that we put on his desk. I hope. Meanwhile, Zelensky is going to the media publicly saying, hell no, I'm not going to sign any Trump peace plan. Not only am I not going to sign any Trump peace plan, but here's my peace plan that I'm going to give Trump X amount of days to approve. It's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. Zelensky is embarrassing Trump. Walk away, Trump. Just walk away. Walk away, bro. So Peskov, he gave an interview to the French publication Le Point, and Peskov said some interesting things, actually. Peskov said that Russia is not seeking Zelensky's removal. They're not looking for regime change in Ukraine. Actually, Peskov said that that if it's going to be Zelensky who's going to negotiate and sign an agreement, we consider him illegitimate, but we're not going to demand that he be removed. Which is interesting because I remember Putin many months ago. Putin was saying that Zelensky is illegitimate, and if Zelensky is the person that we have to sign a deal with, capitulation, if Zelensky has to capitulate and sign the surrender terms, then Putin was saying, what do we do? Because we consider him illegitimate. According to our lawyers, the Russian lawyers, they've looked at the Ukraine constitution, and our legal experts in Russia claim that Zelensky is illegitimate because of martial law. And he canceled the election. So if he signs any type of surrender document, it has no value. It has no legal standing. That's what Putin said many months ago. But now it looks like Peskov is saying, you know what? We'll negotiate with Zelensky. If it's Zelensky, then it's Zelensky, but we still consider him illegitimate. But you know, Peskov put a twist to it. He's actually, I'll read you his quote. What Peskov is actually saying, which is interesting, is that we consider Zelensky legitimate. We'll negotiate with him. Fine, so be it. But if he does sign any type of terms, any surrender, forces inside Ukraine may doubt the legality of the terms. And I think that's an interesting statement from Peskov, because it's basically Russia saying that if there is any type of an agreement, like say Trump manages to get some sort of an agreement put together, let's just say he gets an agreement, hypothetical. Ukraine agrees, Russia agrees to his terms, and Zelensky signs those terms. Basically what Russia is saying is that, what Peskov is saying in this statement is that the Banderites, Poroshenko, Timoshenko, whoever, they can come along and they can say, no, whatever Zelensky signed, he's illegitimate. So they can use Zelensky's illegitimacy in their favor to try and cancel any type of Trump agreement. They can turn the whole thing around. And the Europeans can do the same. The Europeans can come along and say, yeah, you know, Zelensky may have signed these terms, but as the EU, we don't recognize Zelensky as the legitimate president of Ukraine. So these terms are null and void, and we want to continue the escalation. A very interesting statement from Peskov. Let me read you his quote. It's not one of our demands, but even if an agreement were signed with Zelensky today, people could come forward later in Ukraine and legally challenge his legitimacy, the spokesman said. This is in relation to martial law and certain articles of the Ukrainian constitution. The role of the Rada is enshrined in the constitution, not that of the president, Peskov added. Peskov also talked about having the European Union at the negotiating table, and Peskov said that there's nothing to negotiate. Europe wants war, not talks. We're not going to force them. He also said Europeans wanted to teach us democracy, criticizing Putin nonstop, adding, we no longer want any lecture from Europeans. We don't want hypocrites telling us what to do. So I think it's an interesting statement from Peskov. I think it's a very revealing statement from Peskov. And it shows that Russia remains many steps ahead of the Banderites, of the opposition to the Ukraine opposition to Zelensky, and the Europeans, because if Zelensky does finally decide to sign some sort of document, it's not going to be the Russians that are going to call his legitimacy into question. It's going to be inside Ukraine, the opposition, and the Europeans who are then going to come around and say he's illegitimate. So whatever documents are signed are no good. Very interesting statement from Peskov. Anyway, let's, how are we doing on time? All right, let's wrap this thing up. So Politico, they put out an article claiming that Witkoff and Rubio, they are talking about lifting energy sanctions on Russia, specifically Nord Stream 2. That one of the things that they're floating out to Russia, one of the concessions in favor of Russia, is that they will lift not only sanctions relief, which they said they're going to do, but specifically U.S. sanctions on Nord Stream 2. Now, Rubio and Witkoff, they came out and they said, these are lies, this is fake news. And they were very, very angry with this article from Politico, and they were very clear in their statements. This is fake news from Politico. We never said such a thing. We never told Russia that one of the things we'll give them, one of the carrots will be lifting U.S. sanctions on Nord Stream 2, which is, when you think about it, which is meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless because, okay, the U.S. lifts its sanctions on Nord Stream 2. It doesn't mean anything because at the end of the day, it's the Europeans that have to lift the sanctions or the block on Nord Stream 2 because they're the ones that are buying the gas. They're the ones that are going to have the gas delivered to them. So if they don't want to purchase the gas, if they don't want to lift the block on Nord Stream 2, who cares what the U.S. does? Nord Stream 2 is on the European side of things, so it's not really much, even if it's true, even if the Politico article is true, it's not really a concession. It's meaningless, lifting the block, the U.S. sanction on Nord Stream 2. All right, the U.S. lifts it. And Germany says, we don't care. We're still not interested in Russian gas. Or the EU says, we're still not interested in Russian gas, which they've said. The EU actually put out a statement the other day, and they said, we're not going to lift any sanctions. We're just not going to do it, no matter what. So who cares what the U.S. does with Nord Stream 2 in this case? But, you know, the concessions that the U.S. has offered to Russia so far, the public concessions, what we know of publicly, what they've offered Russia is concessions that Russia never asked for, which I think is really interesting. The U.S. really hasn't focused on Istanbul Plus, June 2024 root causes. They haven't addressed those terms. They've actually avoided those terms, as has the media. The collective West media has avoided talking about June 2024 Istanbul Plus. If you weren't watching the Duran, and you were just watching CNN or Fox News, you would probably not even know that in June of 2024, almost a year ago, we're almost at 1 year, almost a year ago, Putin very publicly put out his terms for the conflict in Ukraine. So we have Russia's terms. We know exactly what Russia wants in order to wind down the conflict in Ukraine. And that statement was made almost a year ago. But they're never addressed in the collective West. And the United States, with all of their peace plan stuff, they're not talking about it. The concessions they offer to Russia are concessions that Russia never asked for. Say this Politico article, Russia never asked for the United States to lift sanctions on Nord Stream 2. If this article is correct, Russia never asked for this. Russia never asked for sanctions relief, period. They never asked for sanctions relief, so who cares if you're offering to lift sanctions on us? Okay, that's good. You know, if you offer it to us, we'll take it, but it's not one of our terms. And of course, recognition of Crimea, U.S. recognition of Crimea, that was never something that Russia asked for. Russia never said in any of their terms, specifically in the June 2024, they never said one of our terms is for the U.S. to recognize Crimea. Never. So everything that the U.S. is giving Russia is actually misdirection. It really is misdirection because Russia never asked for these things. Empty concessions. Anyway, let's move on. And let's well, the New York Times. Let me just read you the title from the New York Times. Trump takes on improbable task in seeking trade deal across the globe. The president's threats of tariffs have brought countries like Japan, South Korea, and India rushing to negotiate, but they have sown chaos with bigger trading partners like China. So the New York Times is just basically saying in this article that the Trump administration has miscalculated in its timeline. It's taking a lot longer to hammer out deals with 3 countries. It's now in a trade war with China. Time is on China's side. Time is working against the United States. And they thought it was going to be easy to get deals. with 70 countries. They haven't gotten any deals yet. And now they're focused on 3 countries. And it's taking time because those countries, each country has their own timeline. And the US has a timeline, and India has a timeline, and South Korea has a timeline, and Japan. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time to put together a trade deal. It can take many months to many years, actually. Even if you have good relations with a country, say you're allied with a country, even then, putting together a trade deal can take years. Let's go this way. And so the U.S. is just starting to realize this, according to the New York Times, and it's not looking good. And India was negotiating a trade deal from before the Liberation Day tariffs, and they're still not getting close to a final deal with the United States. And they've had a deal in the works for many, many months with the United States. It takes time. These are not easy deals to put together. But the U.S. is trying to put pressure on these countries because of the trade war that they have with China. And they're realizing it's a very difficult, if not impossible, task. Anyway, Axios is reporting that Musk and Besant got into a big fight the other day. That is what Axios is reporting. When Maloney was visiting the White House, the 2 billionaires, Musk being the richest man in the world, and Besant being, from what I understand, a Wall Street hedge fund type of billionaire, that they were arguing in the White House over some IRS appointments or some IRS stuff. And they got into a big argument and they were yelling at each other. And Musk called Besant a Soros agent, and then Besant yelled some stuff at Musk. And Georgia Maloney was in the next room and she heard all of this. Levitt, the spokeswoman, she said that this is healthy. It's healthy for the administration to discuss these things. That was her response to these claims of an argument. But from what I understand, this was a pretty big argument between Besant and Musk. I wonder who Maloney was going for. Who was she rooting for, Maloney? I know who she was rooting for. Musk, of course. All right, so that's the story from Axios. India and Pakistan. They're in an escalation spiral. The terrorist attack that I talked about yesterday, which left 26 people dead, happened in Kashmir. India has said that this is a terrorist group that is located in Pakistan. So what India has done is that they have suspended the Indus water agreement from 1960, the Indus Water Treaty from 1960, which is vital for Pakistan's water supply and agriculture. India has suspended this treaty, and they've also started banning diplomats, expelling Pakistani diplomats from India and other Pakistani nationals. And Pakistan has replied. From what I read before recording this video, Pakistan replied by blocking flights to where am I going? I'm on the bike path. I need to go here. From what I understand, they're blocking transportation links and flights from India to Pakistan. So that's been Pakistan's reply to India. Things are escalating out of control. We're talking about 2 nuclear powers. Very, very troubling. The terrorist group that India says was behind this attack is the Resistance Front, the TRF, Lashkar-e-Taiba affiliate. That is what India claims. So we're going to have to monitor this story because this could be This could be a huge story, a huge development. India and Pakistan. Anyway, let's do a clown world. What do you guys think? Let's do a clown world. We'll wrap this video up. Ben Shapiro from the Daily Wire. He is going to be interviewing the Green Goblin. That's right. Ben Shapiro traveled to Kiev to interview Zelensky. I traveled to Ukraine to interview President Zelensky. Part 1 of our conversation drops tomorrow on the Ben Shapiro Show. Part 1. It's in many parts, according to Ben Shapiro, the Zelensky interview. Yeah, Ben Shapiro absolutely despises Putin. And then Zelensky, of course, despises Putin. So what we have is two people who absolutely despise Putin. But Zelensky's going to have trouble with this interview because Shapiro, he's a fast talker. He's a very fast talker. I'm not a fast talker, but Shapiro's a fast talker. People that watch content online, videos, they love fast talkers. The faster you talk, the smarter you appear. Shapiro is a very fast talker. And so Zelensky, he's definitely not going to do this interview in English. That's for sure. He's going to have to do it in his native language, which is Russian. But he'll be forced to speak in Ukrainian. But he's not going to be able to do an English interview with fast-talking Ben Shapiro. Can you imagine that? Ben Shapiro and Zelensky doing an interview in English with Ben Shapiro giving Zelensky questions in his fast-talking ways. President Zelensky, how come you decided to turn down Trump's peace plan for Crimea recognition? Why did you turn it down? Podolyak, what these guys say? Mr. President, I'll ask you the question one more time. You turned down Trump's peace plan and you refused to recognize Crimea because you said it is going against your constitution. Why did you turn it down? Mr. American journalist, you speak very fast. Very fast. Podolyak, tell this guy to slow down a little bit so I understand what he says. Yeah, that's going to be a tough interview for Zelensky to do if it was in English. So it'll be very controlled. I'm thinking it's going to be very controlled. And Zelensky's going to speak in his language. Ben Shapiro will speak in his fast English. And we'll get some really good clown worlds and propaganda stuff from this interview. I'm not too hot on Ben Shapiro's geopolitical analysis. I pretty much think that most of the stuff that he has said when it comes to geopolitics has been way off. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Actually, I think that's backed up by fact as well. But anyway, that's a different video for a different time. That's the video for today. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update today. The link is in the description box down below. You see, I can speak fast too. Use the code SPRING15 and get 15% off all merchandise from our shop. And one more story, as I am the fast-speaking YouTube content creator. One more story. It is that Assad, the Russians have turned down the request from HTS to extradite Assad back to Syria for war crimes and human rights abuses. I tried to do that fast. I didn't do too well, did I? Anyway, isn't that a joke? Assad, HTS, Al-Jilani, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, they want Russia to extradite Assad for war crimes, human rights abuses. Al-Qaeda, Al-Jilani, Al-Nusra, they want Assad in Syria for human rights abuses. Okay, Al-Jilani. All right. Whatever, bro. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. Take care.